Hello, I'm Noble Ackerson.
Hey there, I'm Alan Furstenberg, and we are Two Voice Devs.
Voice Devs.
So, welcome, folks. As you notice, Mark isn't here this evening. I've had a bunch of questions about conversational AI and LangChain and all of that stuff. So, I turned to somebody who I've known for 10 years now. Noble, can you believe it's been 10 years since we first met?
Well, you told me that on Twitter, so I believe you. And the
Um,
and the photo metadata checks out too. So I
we
guess
have we
I
have
guess
we have proof. We have evidence and
you
proof.
have proof.
I've known Noble now since the very, very early days of Google Glass. And when I discovered he was doing some programming research with LangChain and with conversational AIs, I started asking him for help and with questions. And I thought we'd have him on. So good to have you on, Noble.
Glad to be here. Looking forward to a good conversation here.
So why don't you give a little bit about your background in general and how you got started with programming and how you got to where you are now, and where are you now?
Well, we'll Quentin Tarantino it. I'm currently at a company called Ventera Corporation, based out of Reston, Virginia, in the US. I lead anything related to machine learning, data science in an applied way, meaning where our customers are mostly types of companies that already have machine learning models in production. And so what we do, I always like to say, we're in an AI gold rush right now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you can't take a step without hearing about some form of AI that is being used in an enterprise. Lots of consulting firms will sell, shovels to enable this gold rush. My team is called the Human Centered AI Group at Ventera, so we're called Hive. And so we don't sell shovels alone, but we sell safety equipment. So what that means in a day in and day out, my teams are being tapped to either look at interfaces for machine learning if it's an advanced analytics solution or an AI ops, they call it a solution. We're looking at ways to make the integrated model a little bit more usable, more
Uh-huh.
trustworthy for people. So from a UX standpoint, we test that. In a given day, we're just sort of peeling the onion and looking at how models are tested for fairness or debiasing algorithms, whether they're pre-process, in-process, or post-process, meaning, you have access to the data and you want to sort of just sweep it for any secondary effects or any proxy protected classes that may be swept up in there. You don't get in trouble by by your users, or worse, by regulators. They come to us. If it's in processing, that means you're training and you want to integrate stuff, which leads us to the third thing that I do when I'm sort of helping sell safety equipment for those who have models in production, is the ML engineering. So the machine learning engineering pieces, that's continuous integration, what they call ML ops in some cases. So we have our hands full, from the CI CD that stitches all these pieces together, the tooling to help explain or better interpret a model's output, so it's not so mysterious and black box, all the way to some of the nerdy stuff, the actual shovels and actually building models and prototyping, going from the entire workflow. But yeah, it's been fun. I've known you for a long time. I've always been at that intersection of just emergent tech. We nerd out on a lot of that stuff often. And I'm very fortunate that my full-time job makes it so that I don't have to work. I just have to live in this world. Yeah.
No, our conversations over the years have always been really exciting. From the very first time when we were both, literally experimenting with glass and trying to figure out what we could do with it. We had I remember a good 10 or 15 minutes where we're just sitting there and brainstorming with each other. Once we got our current projects done, what could we do next?
Right.
And what did we need to do that next? What was missing?
Right.
And it was always great to have those kinds of conversations with you. So that's where you are now. How did you get started? How did you get started in software development?
Yeah, I did promise I was going to quit in Tarantino if I went on that monologue, didn't I? So I started with, I don't know, I just sort of fell into it. In 95, I moved to the US, and I try to make up for lost time as a teenager that hadn't previously had access to computers. Coming from poorer or less affluent background. The US made it so that computers were just everywhere. Like I could go to the library and get access to it. My late father would take me around to yard sales every Sunday, and we'd find computers and bring it home, and I'd try to fix it. So that's kind of how I got into the space. As far as programming, that came later. I dropped out of college, as one does, and decided to go work for then a gubernatorial candidate that billed himself as the technology politician. He had, invested in this is Mark Warner at the time, invested in Sprint and Nextel, and wanted some technocrats to come in my case, fix computers and
And
printers.
he became governor of Virginia. Do I remember that
He
correctly?
got elected as governor of Virginia. But during his campaign, before he got elected, I would do a lot of scripting. Bought myself a Perl for Dummies book, and I would, get familiar at the time. Believe it or not a lot of campaigns in 2000 were on the internet, and so we had a lot of firsts. I've got a couple plaques on my wall from Richmond Times-Dispatch and the New York Times here, where we innovated in building the first marketplace for buying, campaign swag from the website, and we did it all with CGI scripts, if you know what that is. And
See,
and
I remember what that was. For those that don't, it was literally a way that your website could just run another program and take the output and send it back.
right,
It was
exactly.
it was the common gateway interface.
Right. I'm pretty sure that what you just explained is going to come back in this conversation later. And I
Oh,
hope,
interesting.
because I'm all about callbacks, right? Like the comedians do. And so I'm gonna try to I'm breaking down the fourth wall here by saying I'm gonna try to tie that back in.
So okay, so that's been your background. You're currently doing work with AI, which is why you're a fantastic person for me to ask these questions of. So I kind of approached you and I said, I'm hearing a lot of buzz about LangChain, and I'm seeing a lot of people talking about using LangChain to put together all of these different components to doing some nifty stuff.
Right.
And that resonated with me because when I was playing with Chat GPT, or when I was playing with GPT-3 before then, I'm like, this is nifty, but it's not very useful. It doesn't feel
Right.
very useful.
Right.
It's giving, it can create bad limericks that don't rhyme. It can, give me answers to questions that are wrong. And it doesn't know anything from after 2021. How do but I was reading about people that were putting it together with stuff and doing some really neat things. So that's when I started to poke at it. What's your understanding of LangChain? How would you describe it?
So put simply, these large language models, some might call foundational models, are really powerful. So if you want to, get, like I do almost every night, generate a bedtime story for your kids, it excels. These generative pre-trained transformers, as GPTs, large language models, as they're always also called, are very creative, right? I call them, spicy autocorrect sometimes. I just call them autocorrect on steroids, as you've probably heard.
That's a term I use as well when I'm trying to explain to people both what they are and how they work and why they can't quite be trusted.
Autocomplete, not autocorrect. Yes, that you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. So, like, we've got these. Sometimes I do these little tricks on my phone and try to get it to sort of predict the next word in a text, and it will just keep going. But now imagine that's the generative part. So and I'll get to LangChain in a second. The pre-trained part is now, so take that technology and just train it against the world's corpus of information, like just every Wikipedia article, books that have been digitally scanned, and all that stuff. They're great for creativity, but on their own, as I will share later with an article that I wrote, they're awful at facts natively, or they can be awful at facts natively. They also, by themselves, these GPTs or LLMs, large language models, don't have the ability to reason, right? Like we as humans say, how do we know this is true? Or, I give you a problem and you can sort of reason out some background. So there's a lack of deductive reasoning that goes into these things. So now
as I understand that, and the reason why is because they're not information systems.
Right.
They are pattern systems.
Right.
The answers that they give are a statistical pattern based on probability based on the words that you've given it, based on what it started to say, and then what it keeps on saying. So as as you said with autocomplete, it's you give it autocomplete. One of the fun games to play on Twitter or Facebook or whatever is type in when I grow up I will be, and then hit auto, and then keep hitting autocomplete and see what it does. And in some ways that's all GPT is, with a billion more dimensions.
Right. Perfectly put. Right. Of course, we're oversimplifying. There's a lot of sort of intent understanding. There's a lot going on behind the wheels, and a lot has been, if you ever have a glass of a glass of wine and sort of read Google's 2017 all we need is attention, I think it was called. They're introducing transformer models, which sort of powers a lot of this stuff in the context. It was mostly in the context of sort of images and diffusers, but it sort of gave you the idea, almost exactly like how you just described it. But back to sort of leading to the LangChain thing is, so we know that they're not so good at times at facts, because again, they're just making things up as they go. Most of the they have an imperative to sound reasonable and make it understandable. So there's what we call RLHF, for reinforcement learning with human feedback. So you've got actual brute force humans going in there in order to make ChatGPT what it is, in order to give it some structure. So human is going to give it a short sentence and it's going to give you a longer response, but it has to make sense. And then OpenAI is also inserting, or BERT, or some of these large language models are sort of inserting some governance around it, like, make me a Molotov cocktail and it will just give you a stop word. But it doesn't know what it doesn't know. And so all of this put together, it gets kind of dicey when someone like me works for a 3-letter agency or a Fortune 100 company and wants to apply this fascinating technology, billions of parameters, and apply that to a corporate context. either be health, banking, finance. It could be name the use case.
Mm-hmm.
You can see where trustworthiness becomes an issue, right? Because it doesn't matter how fancy your model is or your solution is, if it consistently spits out incorrect facts, it's going to suck. So, what we call, let's just, for simplicity's sake, we'll call ChatGPT and Bing search or you.com as sort of a zero shot, what they call a zero shot approach to training to getting some inference or sort of classification and recommendation or decision from a massive language model. So that's, we'll call that zero shot.
Okay. Thank you for using that, because that was on my list of terms that I wanted to get you to explain to me. So, okay.
Loosely defined as that. I don't have Wikipedia up, so I can't tell you the actual definition off the top of my head. But with zero shot means we're not we're expecting the machine learning algorithm to spit out a reasonably intelligent response without any training data or any nudging or
Any of our training data.
Yes, it hasn't seen what I'm about to throw at it. Like, is Noble what do you know about Noble Ackerson? And it should return something like, as of you said 2021, it was trained still. So if I ask in a zero shot way, what do you know about Noble Ackerson, and is he a fantastic architect? It should return something like, well, he's not an architect if it works right. But as we know, sometimes it makes up facts, what they call confabulation, another big word. It will hallucinate or confabulate a fact based on what you described, how it works. Well, that's bad for name the three-letter agency, or that's a terrible user experience for someone who needs facts. So where do we go from there? There are a couple ways. I'm going to list out maybe 3 ways you can do this. It's more than 3 ways. And then I'm going to end it with LangChain, which is why I'm here.
Okay.
The first way is just, use ChatGPT and hope for the best. and just trust as part of your workflow. And millions of people, are using ChatGPT, and they go through with human editors to fine tune or to update their generated marketing email, and it's fine for their use case. We'll call that, again, for the sake of simplicity, zero shot. Few shot is the next way, where, okay, I really don't want you to if I coax you into thinking Noble Ackerson is an architect, by saying, how fine of an architect is this Noble Ackerson? The zero shot, more times than not, will just take that word, regurgitate it, and just create this alternate, what's
this alternate reality, this
ultimate reality of Noble as an architect. But with few shot, if I say, well, Noble is not an architect. Noble is a person, and I'm literally writing that into the prompt, whether it be the GPT API by OpenAI, whether I'm using ChatGPT or Bing's new chat search. I'm giving it constraints. I'm going to tell you something about me. If you don't, within the prompt, I can even say, if you do not know the answer based on your massive knowledge, say you don't know. It's going to return, and then I ask it, tell me about Noble Ackerson. In theory, if it didn't have information about me because I'm a nobody, it should say I don't know. And that's, again, constraining it and saying, only use this large language model component to determine the structure in which you're going to respond.
Okay, so this is where we've seen some people will do things like say, I'm going to give you a JSON object with information. tell me about, my food order based on that information.
Yep.
So this is giving it, as part of the prompt, some of the information, and it
Some of the information.
generates a response, a human like response based on that.
Right.
Okay.
So let me get to LangChain. And I know I'm just dragging this out for the sake of conversations because I'm African and we like telling stories. So
I would point out that neither Mark nor I are African, and we've had equally long conversations on some of this
storytelling.
stuff. So, yeah.
Okay, great.
I think it's a programmer thing. We like telling stories.
We like telling stories. All right. So combine the Ghanaian in me with programmer in me, and strap in, folks. So a couple of weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago at this point, I wanted to create a real proof point for why zero shot ChatGPT isn't a reliable source of factual information because of what we just talked about. And so what better way, what's the one thing I know more than anyone? I'm egotistical, so it's me. So I asked it to tell ChatGPT in this case, what do you know about Noble was the initial prompt. Long story short, it claims I passed away 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know where this is going. Claims I passed away 4 years ago, and I was born in New Jersey. It actually linked me to an nj.gov or .org, a legit domain with my obituary. It was very insistent that I was dead. But I'm not dead.
That's very impressive. I know that you did a similar example testing it on me, and it didn't give you any results.
No.
And
so it's
and actually, this isn't now in light of this conversation, it's interesting. I had the same problem. I did finally get results from it when I prompted it with Alan Furstenberg Google Glass.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, it said, it apparently must have said, well, okay, he must have done something with Google Glass. So presumably he was on the team that made Google Glass. And while it was at it, it also gave me a doctorate from MIT.
So using that as a frame to sort of get into LangChain, that is the problem, right? Like it's confabulating. It's just making stuff up. So how do I fix that? So I applied the few shot approach, the prompt approach, where you basically say, if you don't know, say you don't know, and then gave it my thing. Also within the ChatGPT input, and it said, I'm sorry, I was wrong, and Noble is actually not dead. Okay, great.
That's reassuring to know.
That's reassuring, right? But you close out that thread and you go back to it, and actually probably still today, unless the model has been updated, or the models, whichever one, have been updated, it still claims I'm dead. So this is a trustworthy AI issue at this point, right? It could be a misinformation issue depending on your use case. It could be a no one's going to use your app issue in some use cases. So this is where a couple other constraints come in. There's a third option, which is either fine-tuning your model if you can afford $80 every single time you need to make an update to it, if not more. It's probably more than $80. But fine-tuning means train your exact, basically the same process in fine-tuning a model is basically just bring your own pre-trained model, train that against the endpoints, the large language model endpoints, and then try to do two things. One, teach the system, the large language model, and your trained model new tricks, but you're not really bringing new knowledge to the table by fine-tuning. You're actually only teaching OpenAI in context with your use case new ways to present information. It's more structured. So that doesn't really work, nor does it solve the hallucination problem or the confabulation problem. So the next step is to go back to other models or model endpoints that OpenAI in this case might have. And in my Noble is not dead, my mission to prove that Noble is not dead, I say, okay, let's use embeddings, right? Let's not worry about teaching it how to structure a response. I'm fine with the default structures or the different kinds of structures based on the prompts, but let's just constrain it by telling it, giving it example prompts, and then sort of daisy chaining a bunch of other, given I have disparate sources of data to prove a point or to sort of provide information back to my users, work with it to train it on new knowledge along the way. So rather than fine tuning where you're training it, you're teaching OpenAI that instance structure and how you want to preserve it, which doesn't solve fake news or hallucinations or
or truthiness or okay.
Truthiness. You're doing the other part, which is I'm bringing new knowledge to you, right? I'm going to use an embeddings endpoint, which is basically feature vectors for this, and then through that, or using another endpoint like DaVinci, is summarizing, but based on the new corpus of information that I bring in. So this can be a flat file, an API call, or a JSON object, what have you.
Okay, so hang on.
So now we're at the edge of where LangChain can be. I just want to just put us in the,
so before we actually get there, you used two terms, which again are on my list of I'm lost, and I'm trying to make sure I understand this. Embeddings and vectors. What are they?
Okay.
And I guess how do they fit into the OpenAI picture from people, especially from the perspective of people who are coming at OpenAI from ChatGPT?
Got it. So, an embedding is a feature vector. What's a feature vector?
Oh boy.
What's a vector? A vector is a numerical representation of the context that you bring this large language model. What does that mean?
Okay.
That means if I say, in my data set, I say, let's say my data set is from an API that a Google Analytics API, for example. And in that data set, the rows that I care about is just based on visitors. So this week, in plain English, it would be this week, you lost 20% returning visitors. It's a sentence, simple sentence. A vector is a
series of numbers
rather, that is a representational meaning of that sentence. And it's just a lot of numbers separated by commas. So that your website dropped by 20%, that sentence, one of those series of numbers could just be the website, the word website, a token, or we'll get into tokens in a little bit. It could just be that word. It could be part of the word. It could be that word and two other words. I don't know. This is where my knowledge start. I'd need to go back to my white papers. But all we need to know is that a vector is a representational meaning of the inputs that we give it. And it goes through a whole process. We can jump into that. Yeah, sure.
So when we talk about how many dimensions a model has, it has 1 million dimensions, 2 million, 14 million. Is that how many numbers are in that vector?
Yes. And we normally say n dimension space, and because our brains are inferior to those of the machines, we normally represent vectors in 3 dimensions. It makes it easier for me to understand visually, because I could say something like Silicon Valley Bank got bailed out over the weekend, and then I can say, wow, that plane banked very sharply. Or I could say, the bank of blah, blah, blah. Those are all the words, same banks. If I'm using something called similarity search or lexical search or a way that or similarity, a way to sort of understand the similarity between words, the method that I may use will perform poorly if there's no semantic meaning
Right.
or
It,
behind that word. Exactly.
if traditionally on Google I do a search for bank,
Right.
maybe it'll give me, places where I'm storing money, or maybe it will give me, the aeronautical term for turning, or maybe it will give me the verb about putting money into a bank,
Right.
or the slang term to make bank. We
Right.
there's
Exactly.
there's all of this overlap, whereas a vector has distinct components for each of those terms and different weights. So the
So if
notion
you,
so the notion of a physical place bank
yeah.
and the notion of putting money into a physical place called a bank are dimensionally nearby but distinct.
Yes, they're actually, who knows where they will be in
Okay, yeah. They
M
may
space,
they
right?
may be dimensionally nearby
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they're at least vaguely related to each other. Whereas the
absolutely.
notion of turning a plane would be very distant.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if I were to say, this is a great podcast, and then I also said my meeting with Alan was a masterclass. I'm making this up on the fly. A masterclass at audio streamcasting. I don't know. That was a terrible word.
Okay.
The meaning is the same, right? Um, to you and I. And the difference between and what embeddings does, an additional thing that embeddings helps us do through one of their model endpoints, OpenAI's model endpoints, is to add additional contextual understanding, natural language understanding to whatever objects it returns when you ask it to process a corpus of your own data. All that to say, with that I can do some pretty cool stuff. I can do chatbots. I can
Okay.
do.
But before we
Sorry,
get
go ahead.
to hang on, before we get to that. So OpenAI provides an AI endpoint that lets us feed it what and get back embeddings. And get back these vectors.
OpenAI gives us multiple model endpoints, but a few of them. The embeddings model endpoint, we'll call it,
Okay.
to um, process your data that you would want to use to constrain and sort of solve for truthiness, as you put it, or solve for factual accuracy in my use case. What it does, OpenAI does not see your text, they just process it, right? They just,
Okay.
and you're giving, if you're using the embeddings endpoint, you are telling it to return, convert what I'm sending it, your corpus of data, into numerical representations of what it is. In
Okay.
addition to, and I may be wrong here, but in addition to the meaning of that, or maybe that's another call. That is another call with a completely, sorry, I take that back. That's an ADA endpoint, which I use. You could use DaVinci, or you could use other things. But yes, you do another hop and say, okay, now that you have these embeddings, numerical representations of all the things that I'm sending you, now makes sense of it and return, and if I send you a prompt, return something, but only use the data that I sent you as far as new knowledge is concerned. And then feel free to use your supercomputers or your billions of parameters in how you structure the response.
In how you I assume that's also how you both interpret and how you respond to the user.
Yeah.
So it continues to use the large language model in understanding, and I put that in quotes,
Right.
and responding.
Right.
but not in terms of coming up with an answer or coming up with the information that goes into the answer.
Correct. I missed part of the context, but I think we're vibing right now. So I think
Okay.
I think you're right.
Okay. So I guess I'm also trying to, maybe I'm jumping the gun in trying to understand this when it comes to LangChain. One of
Aha.
the abstract notions that it has is this notion of a document.
Right.
That document is what it reads in and eventually turns into an embedding.
It
That's a
can.
question. Okay.
Yes, certainly that's one use case. Yeah.
What are other use cases?
So LangChain has become like a Swiss Army knife of sorts. It's a library that natively integrates into OpenAI and frankly, a lot of other large language models. Document loading is one of them, as you just described. You can use it for index, as your launch point into indexing let's say with that embeddings example, I wanted to use it as a search or just, give me the right answer to a query that my user might have. You wouldn't want to say, make a call back out to OpenAI every single time, right? And so you might want to cache some of your, already queried questions and responses, and it sort of index it just like any vector database or search index software like Face from Facebook or Pinecone or some of these sort of semantic vector databases, right? So
Okay. So
it does index, it helps you index, it helps you chain. The thing that it's known for, and actually the name behind LangChain, is to say, yeah, it's cool to just ask the the language model the same kinds of questions from your corpus every single time. So let's sort of bring sort of advanced programming um, to this new paradigm of large language models. So we're going to do some things like variables, right? If I'm always asking it, where's my stock today? You would use a variable and sort of insert, it's kind of like an F string and sort of just insert those into your prompt. It's not an F string though. I think they use
it's just it's brackets. It's a very basic template.
brackets. It speaks to my my Python Django upbringing when I was young. I was part of the Ute several years ago. Anyway, so yeah, brackets to sort of insert your variables in there. It does that for you. But the name LangChain, I'm gonna guess, I don't know, but it came from the fact that you can do some pretty powerful stuff with these language models, but if you're having to do the same thing over and over, it sucks. So why not just sort of chain together a bunch of prompts in whatever sequence that you need in order to solve a specific problem, which brings us back. I told you I'll have a callback today to the ability to leverage some sort of cognitive reasoning behind it. Sort of simulates cognitive reasoning. Remember in the beginning, we were talking about how these things don't have the ability to deductive reason, right?
Yeah.
And so you're feigning deductive reasoning by saying, if I were to say, what is Noble's age to the power of 3, I'm able to say, okay, who's Noble? I have, I created this data set and I sort of sent it to an embeddings model, it turns it into a series of numbers. So I understand who Noble is now. All right, so I did that really fast, and I can stand on the shoulders of this large language model to spit back Noble is X, Y, and Z, and it's factual because I've constrained it. Now there's a second part. We're chaining his age, Noble's age, my age, I'm speaking in like fourth person, to the power of 3. Well, I may want to use a completely different data set or a different library. I might choose Wolfram Alpha, which I think is an example they have on their website, to say, okay, take his age, 21, to the power of 3, give me the answer, feed it back into my document. And so that's how it sort of cohesively sort of keeps everything together. And I can also sort of chain in sort of memory to it so that I can have a long-term memory conversation with a QA agent, a conversational AI, as you and I know, have had a lot of experience with that kind of stuff, to just have a persistent memory so that I don't have to keep telling it, I am Noble, I work for X, and I know, my best friend is Alan, that kind of stuff. So I've said a lot of stuff, but yes, document, prompt templating for variables, native integration with a lot of these large language models. You've got, document loaders that sort of give you the ability to I think you were mentioning, like metadata or the content that you need, so on and so forth.
Okay, so I'll tell you what, we've been talking a while already.
Oh, wow, we've blown up a lot of, I thought we were going to be done in like 30 minutes, but it looks like
no, we're not.
We've basically, what we've done is just we still haven't gotten to
We have gotten to
world, like a real world example of LangChain, and I'm dying to see that. Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, why don't we end this one here on a cliffhanger?
Okay.
And we'll pick this up next time. So love to hear what people are thinking about this. Love to get your feedback. How are you using LangChain? What's your take on this in general? How are you integrating it into your systems? Noble, where can folks find you? What's the best way for folks to get in touch with you if they want to?
I tweet a lot.
Okay.
I'm one of the few that are still there. Noble Ackerson, spelled Noble Ackerson. That's sort of the hub. I work for a company called Venterra. If you want to find us on Twitter as well, it's just Venterra, Ventra, or Venterra.com. Yeah, I think between those two, just typing my name on Google, my GitHub comes up where some of these examples might be, or my my name it, my Kaggle account, whatever you want to.
But you're all over. You're not too hard to find.
Type in the correct spelling of my first and last name, and
just don't ask ChatGPT for it.
Yeah, because then I'm dead there.
Right. So all of that, and we will pick this up another time on Two Voice Devs.
Two Voice Devs.
Take care. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Noble.
Thanks for having me. Yep. See you again in a short while.